Welcome to my ADHD Relationship, your evidence-based guide to navigating love, friendship, and family life through the lens of ADHD. If you're a woman with ADHD, have you ever felt like your symptoms have a mind of their own? Like they can change, sometimes dramatically, from one week to the next? Well, what if that feeling wasn't random at all? What if it's actually a predictable pattern, one driven by hormones? Today, we are diving deep into that powerful connection between female hormones and the ADHD brain.
I mean, how relatable is this quote? Sliding into a heavier version of my symptoms. It just perfectly captures that feeling so many women with ADHD have at certain times of the month. And I want you to know this is not just a feeling. It's a real, biologically driven experience, and today we're going to unpack exactly why it happens.
So that's the big question, right? Why? Why does your ability to focus, to manage your emotions, to just get things done seem to go on a roller coaster ride every month? I promise you it's not a lack of effort or willpower. The answer lies deep within your brain's chemistry.
Okay, so let's get right into it. For so many women, the missing piece of the ADHD puzzle is understanding the incredibly powerful influence of hormones. And specifically, we're talking about estrogen. Now, we usually think of estrogen in terms of, reproduction, but in your brain, it has this whole other job. It acts as what's called a neuromodulator. That's just a fancy way of saying it directly fine-tunes the very brain chemicals, dopamine and norepinephrine, that are already at the core of ADHD. It's a direct chemical interaction. So here's how it works, and this is really the key. When your estrogen levels are high, it's like a booster for your brain. It helps optimize dopamine activity, which means, you guessed it, better focus and a more stable mood. But when estrogen levels drop, that booster is just gone. Dopamine doesn't work as well, and that's when the brain fog rolls in, irritability spikes, and all those core ADHD symptoms feel so much worse. So where does this story really begin for a lot of women? Well, let's talk about the first major hormonal shift in life, puberty. For many girls, this is where that sensitivity to hormones first creates what you could call a perfect storm of symptoms.
And it's what we call a double whammy. So first, we know that the prefrontal cortex, that's the brain's command center for things like emotional control and executive function, well, it often develops a bit slower in girls with ADHD. Now, on top of that still developing system, you dump a massive sudden surge of new hormones. And the result isn't just a little change. It's a huge escalation of emotional symptoms.
And this is a really big deal because it has a huge consequence. The emotional dysregulation, the anxiety, the depression, they become so intense and so visible that they can totally mask the underlying ADHD. A doctor might see the mood symptoms and diagnose anxiety or depression, completely missing the neurodevelopmental root cause of the problem. Okay, so puberty is this one-time explosion, right? But let's shift from that to the thing that happens every single month, the menstrual cycle. Because that exact same hormonal mechanism creates a very predictable pattern of symptoms. Let's just walk through the cycle. Right after your period, in what's called the follicular phase, estrogen starts to rise. And for many women with ADHD, this means better focus and a better mood. It usually peaks around ovulation. That's often when cognitive performance is at its best. But then, in the second half of the cycle, the luteal phase, estrogen takes a nosedive. And that's when the symptoms really start to ramp up. So, to put it really simply, the first half of your cycle with high estrogen is basically your brain's best friend. It helps with focus and stability. But that second half, the luteal phase, when estrogen is falling, that's when the trouble starts. That's when you get that classic brain fog, the inattention, the irritability. It's a clear, direct link. Now, for some women, this luteal phase isn't just challenging, it is completely debilitating. And this brings us to a really significant and often missed connection between ADHD and a condition called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD. And I want to be really clear here. PMDD is not just bad PMS. It's a severe diagnosable condition. It's like the brain has an extreme negative allergic reaction to normal hormonal changes. This can lead to intense mood swings, depression, and anxiety that can seriously impact daily life for about 1 to 2 weeks every single month. And the numbers here are just staggering. In the general population, just under 10% of women have PMDD. But when you look at women with ADHD, that number skyrockets to over 40%. This points to a shared biological vulnerability. That dopamine system in the ADHD brain seems to be extra sensitive to those hormonal shifts. So when these two conditions overlap,
you're not just dealing with ADHD anymore. You're dealing with ADHD plus a cyclical, severe mood disorder. This creates this predictable period every month of just profound difficulty where it's hard to function, and that can wreak havoc on your work, your school, and your relationships. Okay, so we have laid out the problem, and I know it can sound a bit heavy, but this is the most important part. What can you actually do about it? Because this knowledge leads directly to real, actionable strategies for managing your cycle. All right, first things first, you need to start a data-driven conversation with your doctor. That means tracking your symptoms, use an app, use a diary, whatever works. This gives you concrete proof of what's happening. And with that data, you can talk about real strategies, like maybe a temporary planned increase in your stimulant dose during that luteal phase to help counteract the dopamine drop. Or for those severe mood symptoms, SSRIs can be incredibly effective, sometimes even if you only take them during that tougher phase. And while we're on the topic of managing your health, we have to talk about contraception, because this is a really critical piece of information. Some research has shown that women with ADHD who take oral contraceptives, the pill, have a 5 times higher risk of developing depression. Now, the key thing here is that this increased risk was not found for women using non-orals hormonal methods, like an IUD. This is such a vital conversation to have with your doctor. You can also support your brain with what you eat. Especially during that tough luteal phase, think about foods that can help stabilize your system. Complex carbs, like quinoa or sweet potatoes, can help with serotonin and blood sugar. Magnesium, found in things like spinach and almonds, is awesome for mood. And of course, healthy fats like omega-3s support overall brain health. It's all about giving your brain the fuel it needs when it's most vulnerable. And finally, you can build behavioral buffers into your life. Look at your calendar. If you know that week 3 of your cycle is going to be rough, don't schedule a huge project deadline or a stressful family event for that week. Protect your sleep like it's your job. And maybe most importantly, practice self-compassion. This isn't a character flaw. It's not you failing. It is neurobiology. And just understanding that can change everything. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. Is your current approach to managing your ADHD hormone aware? Because understanding this connection isn't just interesting information. It could be the key to building a strategy that truly works for your brain all month long. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so that you're notified when a new video is released. Thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you soon. Bye now.